So last class we had completed verse number 17 of chapter 4. We will again read that verse and then we will move on to the next verse. So verse number 17. Karmano hyapi bodhavyam cha vikarmanaha akarmanascha bodhavyam gehna karmano gatihi. So we'll just recall what this verse conveyed. The truth about action must be known, and the truth about inaction also must be known, and truth about prohibited action should be known. So what basically Krishna is saying is, you should know what to do, what you should not do, because action is not easy to understand. So we should know. If we know what is action, then it is easier for us to understand what is the truth. So if we understand the truth behind the action, we will know the absolute truth. So this is what was the meaning of the last verse. Now let us read verse number 18. Karmanya karma yaha paschet akarmani cha karmayaha sabuddhiman manusheshu sayukta kristra karma krita. Now this is a very important verse. Actually, this is the verse which is the main verse in this chapter, because again this is coming back to knowledge, the knowledge part of Bhagavad Gita, and the whole purpose of Bhagavad Gita is to convey the knowledge. As we know, one is action, one is knowledge, karma and jnana. Karma will be described in many ways in all the chapters, but in each chapter there will be a few verses which convey the knowledge, and these are the most important verses, because action is something which we all do. Only thing, we should know the right kind of action to do, but knowledge can only be gained by study. So whenever there is a verse which conveys the knowledge part, the emphasis is more on that, and gurus like Adi Shankara have elaborately commented on such verses compared to the other verses. So looking at that, this verse actually is a very key verse. So if you read the meaning, it may sound a little funny. It says, he who sees inaction in action and action in inaction is wise among men. Now this is very confusing. If you read it as it is, how can somebody say, see inaction in action and action in inaction? So if you read it per se, it will not make sense, and it is bound to create confusion. Now why this kind of a verse comes? If you remember, when Vyasacharya wanted somebody to write the Mahabharata as he dictated, he requested Lord Ganesha to write. As he dictated the verses, Lord Ganesha was supposed to write those verses. Lord Ganesha agreed, but he also put a condition that Vyasacharya should not stop at any moment. He should not take a pause. He has to continuously keep chanting the verses so that he will write it. So this was the condition put by Lord Ganesha, and then Vyasacharya agreed, but he also put one condition, that you should not write the verse unless you have understood the meaning. So when you write the verse, you have to write it with full understanding of the meaning of the verse. So Lord Ganesha also agreed to this condition. So as the Mahabharata was being recited by Vyasacharya, there were times when he needed to take a pause. So in between, he used to give some verses which were a little confusing, and this is one of those verses. So that Lord Ganesha had to think for a while, maybe for a moment, to understand the meaning, by which time Vyasacharya would have composed the next few hundred verses. So that is why in the Bhagavad Gita we will find every now and then one verse which, if you go by the literal meaning, may sound a little funny. How can there be action in inaction and inaction in action? So if we also look at that, we will also be a little confused. So that is why probably Lord Ganesha took a little time to understand this and then continue. So now coming back to this verse, like I said, this is a very important verse which conveys the knowledge. Now, when Lord Krishna says, the person who sees inaction in action and action in inaction is a wise person. Now, what is inaction and what is action, we have to see. So let us understand the basic thing. In general, we have three aspects: the body, the mind, and then the consciousness. The body-mind complex, as we understand it, is performing action every moment, while the consciousness does not perform any action. At any moment, even if you are sitting, there is action happening, because the body-mind complex cannot be without action at any time. So even if you take a wall, you will say the wall is just a solid piece of cement and bricks. Can there be any action in that? If you go down to the atomic level, there is action, because in an atom the protons, neutrons, electrons, so the electrons are constantly moving, which is not visible to us. So action is happening, but we are unable to see. Even if you take the case of our Earth, it is supposed to be moving at a particular speed on its axis and then round the sun. But at this moment we feel it is stationary. Only when there is an earthquake we feel the movement of the earth. Otherwise at this moment we feel it is stationary. Even when you are just sitting, if you have to sit still for a while, it takes a lot of effort. Or even stand, sit for a length of time. We can say I am not doing any action, but the amount of effort you have to put in to sit still for a length of time is tremendous. Even moving will be more easier than sitting. If you ask somebody, just sit still, no movement at all for the next half an hour or even 10 minutes. So you may think that a person is still, but the effort, so his mind is constantly being aware that he has to be still. So constantly either physical activity or mental activity is going on. So this is the truth about the body-mind complex. Now coming to the consciousness. How does this body-mind complex function? It is like you can compare it with a bulb. The olden days bulb, where there is a bulb with a filament inside. So you can say the bulb is the body, the filament is the mind. Now how, just by having a bulb and with a filament, will it produce light? So you need electricity. So as soon as you switch on the power, you put on the switch, you see the bulb glowing. Similarly, the body-mind complex is like this bulb and the filament. The mind, you can say, is the filament. The electricity is the consciousness. The consciousness lights up both the body and the mind. So without the consciousness, the body-mind complex cannot function. Without the electricity, the bulb cannot work. The bulb will not glow. So consciousness is essential for the body-mind complex to function. So this is the one who is aware, and this consciousness principle doesn't have any action. It doesn't move. Like in a movie, the characters move on the screen, but the screen itself doesn't move. So the screen does not perform any action except that the movie is projected on it. Similarly, the consciousness does not perform any action because there is nothing there without consciousness. So where can there be action? Like if you take the 5 elements, earth, water, air, fire, they all can move in space. But space itself cannot move anywhere because everything is space. Similarly, when everything is consciousness, consciousness cannot move. It is there in every nook and corner. So there is nothing, nowhere it can move. Like space, everything around is space. So it cannot move anywhere. Within space, other things move. Similarly, consciousness does not move. It exists and it lights up the body-mind complex. Now, the person who is aware of this fact, that I am not this body-mind complex, so we can call it as the lower ego, because we are me, mine is the body mind complex, and which we think is the truth. So we assume that the body mind complex is me. So the ego is me. But we are not aware of the higher self, which is the consciousness. So the one who is aware of the consciousness, he can see there is in action, when you are performing an action with the body mind complex, the consciousness is inactive. It doesn't perform any action. So in action you see inaction. If you understand you are that higher self, you claim you are the higher self, then you will understand that whatever action is being done is not me. I am not the doer, because I am the immovable conscience. So this is how a wise person sees action. He sees inaction, because once you claim that you are the Atma, you are that consciousness, then automatically all the action that you do, you are not connected to that, but you continue to perform action, because as long as you exist in this body mind complex, you cannot live without doing action. Action is inevitable, whether you like it or not. Physical and mental action is happening continuously. So you cannot say that I will not do any action. To become actionless, you cannot say I will stop doing action. To become actionless, you have to understand that you are the actionless Atma. And this is the knowledge that Krishna is giving. You are that very Atma which is actionless is you. But because you are ignorant of this fact, you think you are the person who is doing all the action. So once you get that knowledge, you will understand that the one who is performing the action is not the doer. But you have to continue doing action, because it is the very nature. Nobody can be actionless, nobody can stop action even for a moment. But knowing this fact, you enjoy the action that you need to do, because already you know what action should be done and what action should not be done. Once you are clear, then what is actionlessness is nothing but understanding that you are that Atma which is not performing any action. So you claim the higher self and continue to be in the lower self, enjoying the actions that you do. You keep doing actions, because as long as you exist in this body-mind complex, you have to continue to do action. For basic survival, you need to at least have food and water, for which you need to do action. So this action will continue. So you don't have to, you cannot stop even if you, not that you don't have to stop action, you cannot stop action even if you want to. So there is no time at which you will be actionless as far as the body-mind complex is concerned, and at no time you will be doing action if you claim you are the Atma. You are that everlasting, never changing, never moving Atma, because that is the absolute truth. So if you see inaction in action, that means you have understood the principle of consciousness. So that is why people say that when I drop all my actions, when I retire, I will attend Bhagavad Gita class, then I will gain jnanam. You can continue to do your action and still attend Bhagavad Gita class, because if you wait, suppose somebody says, I will take a bath in the ocean when all the waves stop splashing. So you will wait till the waves stop, and then you will get into the water. It's same way. Actions are never going to stop. So if you want to gain knowledge, you will never find a time where action will stop. Continue doing action in the way it is prescribed, doing what is to be done, avoiding what is not to be done, continuing to do the Pancha Mahayajnas, as we say, the rituals which are prescribed as per the Shastras. Do your actions with a Karma Yoga attitude. Don't claim to be the one who is doing action. Let actions happen, and whatever results come out of those actions, accept them as prasadam from the Lord. If that attitude you build, and then you continue to do action, you enjoy the action, and at the same time, if your knowledge is firm that you are the Atma which does not perform action, you will continue to enjoy, and as long as you live in this body, you continue to enjoy the actions, and ultimately when the body drops, you attain moksha. Now the second part is, we have talked about inaction in action. So when you are doing action, you are seeing the inaction if you connect with the consciousness. The other part is, you see action in inaction. Now take the case of when you are sleeping. When you are sleeping, your body is not active, neither is your mind active. So there is complete inaction. But at the same time, the action is there in potential form. When you go to bed, you think of, okay, tomorrow I have to get up, I have to do all these things, I have to attend a meeting, or I have to go to this place, tomorrow I have to have a flight to catch. So all these things are potentially in your mind. You go to bed, you have a nice sleep. When you get up, immediately once you get up, you are ready to perform those actions. So those actions never went away. They were always there in potential form in your mind. That is why the moment you get up, you start. It is not that once you go to bed, you forget all that you have to do next day, and when you wake up, you start looking, okay, today is another day, what should I do? Should I brush my teeth, or should I take a bath? So how those actions we perform, because they are there in potential form. So the wise man also knows that even in a deep sleep state, actions are going on, though seemingly you are completely inactive. Both your mind and body are completely inactive in deep sleep. In dream state, your mind is active, but when you go to deep sleep, both your body and the mind are inactive. Now, deep sleep state actually is your original state. That is why everybody loves to sleep. Because in deep sleep state, you are not bothered whether you are the doer or the enjoyer. You don't worry about any of those actions. So you go into a state which is actually your original state. So you rest in your original state when you are in deep sleep. So that is why all of us love to sleep. Because in deep sleep you are not bothered about doing any activity. You don't worry about what to do now, what not to do. None of the actions are carry any meaning in deep sleep state. So when you realize this fact, when you are awake, so your actual state is what you are in a deep sleep state. That is the knowledge you need to have to sort of that knowledge is the one which is the ultimate knowledge. So the wise man understands that in deep sleep state still action is happening, though seemingly your body is resting, because all those actions are in potential form. But you go into your original state, which is the consciousness. So that is your original state. So that is why you enjoy the deep sleep state, because that is your true nature. So if you can, the one who understands this fact is a jnani or a knowledgeable person. Because whenever you have a problem, as long as you enjoy any activity, you feel there is no problem, it's fine. But the moment we do actions and then we find that we are unable to perform them as we need to, we start getting problems. Then we don't know how to solve those problems. It can happen at every front, between relationships or at work or any situation. When there is a action being performed, as long as you are doing it, as long as you are enjoying it, you don't feel any stress or strain in yourself. But the moment you feel those actions are slightly, we get into situations but we do not know how to get out of them. That is where the problems come. Like Abhimanyu, he knew how to get into the Chakravyuha, but he was not aware how to get out of the Chakravyuha. Similarly, all our actions, as long as they go within what we feel is manageable, we feel we have no issues. But the moment they go beyond control, where we are unable to manage them, we don't know what to do. So if you are aware of your true self, you just relax in your true self like you did in deep sleep. So at least when you are in deep sleep, none of the problems matter. It's another matter that when you have too many problems, you may not be able to sleep also. So that is another factor. But even if you sleep for an hour or two, when you are in deep sleep, even if the world falls apart, nothing can shake you. So because that is your true nature. And this fact, if you are aware during waking state that whatever is actions are being performed, I am not the person who is doing it. I am the never changing consciousness. I am that Atma. I am not the ego, or I claim my body, mind to be myself. As long as we understand that this anatma, we can call it as Atma is the consciousness, anatma is the body-mind complex. Anatma will be ever active, Atma will be never active. If you understand the fact that you are that Atma, but you continue to perform actions in being in the anatma or living in this body-mind complex, if you continue to do your action claiming your higher self, you will not find any problems. Like when you go to deep sleep, you don't have any problems. But if you don't accept the Atma as your true self, you will continue to perform actions which are going to add to your problems over a period of time. You may find that you are unable to handle your problems, and then you seek the help of others, and you may be guided or misguided by many. So Krishna says, be aware of this fact. You are that Atma. Claim your real self. Claim that I am that Atma. Continue to perform your regular karmas without any, because there is no choice. So continue to do your actions, knowing very well that you are not the one who is performing the action. So that is why, while doing action, you should be aware that you are the actionless consciousness, and while not doing action, you are still you understand that even in inaction, you are actually doing action in potential form. So one who understands this completely, he is a wise person. He is the one who attains moksha and gets out of this cycle of birth and death. So this is the meaning of this particular verse, which is a little complicated if you go by the face value. But if you understand the depth of the meaning in this verse, it becomes easier for us to understand. And in the next 4 or 5 verses, Krishna is going to elaborate on this particular verse, because this verse by itself conveys everything, but it may not be easy to understand, which Krishna also knows. So that is why in the next, from verse number 19 to 24, he is going to discuss this verse in detail, with more details of the meaning of this verse he is going to convey, which we will see in the coming classes.